The war rages on across the galaxy, tearing apart star systems and leaving destruction in its wake. The Republic's victory seems ever more distant as the Clone Wars drag on, and Anakin Skywalker, once hailed as the Chosen One, finds himself at the center of a conflict that is no longer about saving the galaxy. It is about survival. His dreams of freedom for the slaves on Tatooine, freedom for the oppressed, and the hope to bring balance to the Force, feel increasingly unattainable in a galaxy that seems consumed by war. It begins with the confrontation. Anakin has always struggled with authority, especially from the Jedi Council, who never fully trusted him. He's been pushed and pulled between duty and his instincts, between love for Padmé and the demands of the Order. But this time, it is different. Obi-Wan Kenobi, his mentor and friend, confronts Anakin over his increasingly impulsive behavior, his obsession with finding a way to save Padmé from the dreams that haunt him of her death. Obi-Wan's words are not those of a brother, but of a weary teacher reprimanding a student. The respect Anakin had once felt for his mentor starts to crack under the weight of their differences.
I don't care about the Council's orders, Obi-Wan. This war, it's tearing the galaxy apart and it's tearing me apart.
Anakin's voice is raw, filled with frustration. His hands clench at his sides, his lightsaber, his bond to the Jedi Order, burning like a weight he cannot bear. Obi-Wan, ever calm, replies,
"You are not the only one suffering, Anakin. The Jedi are the guardians of peace, not soldiers. But you have let anger cloud your path. Your decisions, your actions, are putting everyone at risk."
This confrontation marks the breaking point for Anakin. He feels trapped in a system that no longer aligns with his ideals, trapped by the expectations of the Jedi and by the looming threat of the Sith. He watches as Obi-Wan walks away, the distance between them growing with each step. Anakin's heart is torn between the Jedi teachings he was raised to believe in and the promise of a different future, one where he can act freely, where his love for Padmé is not a secret burden, and where he is no longer a pawn in a galactic game. Later that night, Anakin stands on the balcony of Padmé's apartment, gazing out over the sprawling cityscape of Coruscant. The lights below shimmer like a sea of stars, a galaxy of hope and despair, all in one. The city represents everything he despises now: corruption, bureaucracy, and the endless cycle of war. Padmé's voice is a soft whisper in his ear, a voice that once brought him comfort, now filled with sorrow. He can feel her presence through the Force, a tether that calls him back to her, to the life they built together. But something in Anakin snaps. The moment stretches like a cord pulled tight to its breaking point. In his mind's eye, he sees the faces of the oppressed, his mother's face among them. He recalls his vows to free the slaves on Tatooine, to undo the wrongs that scarred his past. The Jedi's mission has become lost to him. They are consumed with maintaining order, not bringing justice. He can no longer be a part of it. He makes a decision that will change the fate of the galaxy forever. Without warning, Anakin vanishes from Coruscant that night. He leaves behind his lightsaber, the symbol of his former life. He leaves behind his Jedi robes, the identity he's worn for years. And most painfully, he leaves behind Padmé, though he leaves her a note. His love for her is eternal, but he cannot remain bound by the chains of politics and war. He tells her that the galaxy is too broken, that he must forge his own path. There's a bitterness in his heart, a growing realization that his attempts to change the galaxy from within have failed. He will no longer be a tool of the Jedi or the Republic. He has to be free to act, to choose, and to find redemption on his own terms. He disappears into the night, a ghost in the galaxy. Months pass. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, where the shadows of the Republic's control are weakest, a new legend begins to take shape. A masked figure, swift and merciless, hunts across the outer rim. He is elusive, like a shadow in the darkness. Whispers spread like wildfire. A new bounty hunter is making a name for himself, one whose skills are unmatched, whose body is like a weapon honed by years of battle. His name, Vengeant. His reputation precedes him, quick, lethal, and ruthless. He never stays in one place long enough for anyone to track him, but every time he strikes, the fear he generates spreads like wildfire. No one knows who he is, but those who have crossed him are never heard from again. He leaves no trace of his identity, just destruction, a mark of his vengeance, as he cuts down those who have abused their power and caused suffering. Rumors say he is a former Jedi, a broken soul, a fallen hero. The truth is more complicated, more tragic. Vengeant is the man who once was Anakin Skywalker, the man who chose freedom over the Jedi, but who still cannot escape the ghosts of his past. As the legend of Vengeant grows, so does the threat he poses. Those who profit from the galaxy's chaos and corruption begin to fear the shadow he casts, but no one truly understands what drives him, not even Anakin himself. In his quest to free himself from the chains of the Jedi and the Sith, he becomes something else entirely, a figure of justice, vengeance, and sorrow. In the end, Anakin Skywalker is gone, and Vengeant rises. The life of a bounty hunter is brutal and unforgiving, very different from the ideals Anakin Skywalker once held as a Jedi. Yet, as he steps deeper into this new world, he feels a strange sense of clarity. The war has stripped him of the man he once was. He is no longer a soldier of the Republic, bound by codes and creeds. He is free now, or so he tells himself. But in the dark corners of his soul, something still stirs, a memory of the man who dreamed of bringing peace to the galaxy. Anakin, now Vengeant, learns quickly that the bounty hunter's life is not about honor or justice. It's about survival. Each job brings him into contact with the dregs of the galaxy, the worst of the worst. Yet there is a sense of satisfaction in each mission. The violent criminals, the corrupt politicians, the slavers, they all represent everything Anakin despises. This is his retribution, a way to atone for the things he couldn't prevent, the people he couldn't save. The galaxy's criminal underworld whispers of a Hutt crime lord named Goraka, a monstrous figure whose empire stretches across the Outer Rim. Goraka's latest operation is perhaps his most vile yet, kidnapping refugees from war-torn systems and selling them into slavery, further perpetuating the suffering he's helped to create. The stories of these people, torn from their homes, sold like cattle to the highest bidder, resonate deeply with Vengeant. He sees his mother's face in their plight, hears her voice calling him to bring justice to those who exploit the vulnerable. The bounty placed on Goraka's head is substantial, but it's not just the credits that motivate Vengeant. This is personal. The memories of Shmi, his mother, who was stolen from him and left to die in the deserts of Tatooine, rise to the surface with every passing moment. It's as if her spirit is guiding him, pushing him forward, compelling him to seek vengeance not only for her, but for all those who suffer at the hands of powerful men like Goraka. Vengeant tracks the Hutt's movements across the Outer Rim, piecing together intelligence from smugglers and informants. His methods are ruthless. He takes what he needs from those who dare to cross him, using his skills as a former Jedi to extract information swiftly and without mercy. His mastery of the Force, though hidden from view, remains his most lethal weapon, and he wields it with precision and control. His pursuit leads him to Nalhuta, the toxic, swampy homeworld of the Hutt cartel. The planet is a filthy, dangerous place, a stark contrast to the gleaming spires of Coruscant, where he once stood as a Jedi. The air is thick with the stench of decay, and the rivers are poisoned with waste. Here, Goraka holds court in a massive palace, surrounded by an army of mercenaries, assassins, and soldiers. This is no easy mission. Vengeant arrives under the cover of darkness. His silent, efficient approach, reflecting his growing expertise as a hunter. The shadows are his allies. He moves like a wraith through the palace, his mask obscuring his identity, his presence unnoticed by all but the Force. His footsteps are soft, deliberate. He knows the layout of the palace like the back of his hand, every trap, every weak point. He takes out Goraka's guards one by one, swiftly and lethally, using his lightsaber only when necessary, preferring the silent lethality of his blaster and hand-to-hand combat. As Vengeant infiltrates deeper into the palace, memories of his former life flood his mind. He remembers the Jedi Code, the ideals he once swore to uphold, but they feel distant now, like an echo of a life he no longer belongs to. The Jedi were never as focused as he was now. Their patience, their ideals, their reluctance to act decisively, it all seems weak in comparison to the raw power he now commands. He has become something else, a force of nature, not bound by the rules of the Jedi or the Sith. The Force is an extension of himself, a tool that serves his will. At last, he reaches the heart of the palace, where Goraka sits in his massive throne room, surrounded by slaves and underlings. The Hutt crime lord lounges in luxury, his bloated form barely moving as he barks commands to his entourage. He doesn't see Vengeant until it's too late. Goraka sneers. "Another bounty hunter come to die? You should know. I've killed many like you. You will be no different." Vengeant steps forward, his tone cold. "I'm not here for your credits, Goraka. I'm here to end your reign." The Hutt laughs, but the sound is short-lived as Vengeant ignites his lightsaber in a flash of red, cutting down the guards who try to reach for their weapons. With a fluidity and precision that seems almost unnatural, Vengeant closes the distance between himself and Goraka. He is fast, faster than anyone could anticipate. A blur of motion, his force-enhanced reflexes making him untouchable. Goraka's plea for mercy is weak, pathetic. He stammers, You don't understand. The galaxy is a machine, a system that needs leaders like me. You're nothing, a ghost. Vengeant steps closer, his voice steady. I understand more than you think. With a single powerful strike, Vengeant ends Goraka's life. The Hutt's massive body slumps forward, lifeless. Silence falls over the room as Vengeant stands over the crime lord's corpse, his chest rising and falling in controlled breaths. The weight of his actions doesn't seem to affect him, not in the moment. This is justice. This is the price of freedom. Leaving the palace in ruins, Vengeant vanishes into the darkness once again, his legend growing. But for Anakin, there's something more than just the thrill of victory. A cold emptiness settles in his chest, like a void that can never be filled. He has delivered justice to Goraka, but he hasn't brought peace to himself. The memories of his past, of the Jedi, of Padmé, of the galaxy he once tried to save, linger like a storm on the horizon. He is vengeant now, but Anakin Skywalker is never far behind. As the Outer Rim whispers of the masked bounty hunter's success, rumors begin to spread of a man who is not just killing for money, but for something far deeper. Vengeance's path is no longer about just hunting criminals. It's about vengeance, redemption, and the hope that one day, perhaps, he will find the peace that has long eluded him. The galaxy has changed. Where once Anakin Skywalker stood as the chosen one, a symbol of hope, now there is only a shadow, Vengeant, a name whispered in the dark corners of the Outer Rim. The more Vengeant operates, the more he distances himself from the man he once was. The wars, the Jedi, the ideals he once clung to. All of it feels distant, like a fading dream. But even as he embraces the mask of vengeance, the past refuses to release him. It haunts him in the quiet moments, in the dreams that linger long after he wakes. The hunt never stops. One bounty follows another, but each mission chips away at the man who was Anakin Skywalker. He has built a reputation as a ghost, a phantom who strikes fear into the hearts of warlords, criminals, and corrupt officials alike. But the more successful he becomes, the more empty he feels. He is driven by rage, by the memory of his mother's death, by his belief that the galaxy is beyond saving. But it is not enough. With each kill, with each life he takes, the void inside him deepens. He no longer knows who he is. His identity is lost in the haze of the hunt. Yet there are moments when the past creeps in, like a whisper on the wind. He hears Padmé's voice in the distance, calling to him. He dreams of her, her face, her touch, her love, forever distant, forever out of reach. He knows that she is safe on Naboo, hidden from the chaos of the galaxy. Yet the connection to her lingers in his mind, like a tether to a life he can never return to. Anakin tries to push those memories aside. He tells himself that she is better off without him, that his life is now too dangerous for her. The whispers grow louder, and Anakin's heart tightens in response. His name, Anakin Skywalker, is a memory that belongs to another life, but it still stings. The Force pulls at him, urging him to return to the Jedi, to the order that once called him their hero. But that life is gone. He has chosen a different path, and there is no going back. Vengeant tries to ignore the gnawing sensation at the back of his mind. He doesn't want to remember the camaraderie he once shared with Obi-Wan. He doesn't want to hear the soft tones of Ahsoka's voice, full of hope and trust. He doesn't want to think about how he failed her, how he failed the Jedi, how he failed himself. Instead, he focuses on the present. He hunts the guilty, he takes bounties, and he survives. However, no matter how hard he tries to bury his past, it continues to claw its way to the surface. It is on one of these hunts that the past forces its way back into his life. A bounty on a corrupt politician named Raldak Vel promises both a high payout and an easy job. But when Vengeant tracks him to a remote world on the Outer Rim, he finds more than just a corrupt official. Vel's underworld connections are vast, but it's the fleeting glimpse of a woman he catches in the shadows of a slum, a woman who looks so much like Padmé that stops him dead in his tracks. Her face is different, hardened by time, by the cruelty of the galaxy. But there is no mistaking the resemblance. The woman is a slave, shackled to a group of men who seem more like mercenaries than anything else. Vengeance's heart skips a beat, and a surge of something he hasn't felt in years, grips him. He watches her from the shadows, her eyes distant, filled with the weight of years of suffering. There is no mistaking it. This is someone who has been through the fires of war, the horrors of the galaxy. The vision haunts him. For a moment, he can see Padmé in her, the same strength in her eyes, the same quiet dignity. But then the image is shattered as the woman is dragged away, her captors ignorant of the figure watching from afar. Vengeant is shaken. The connection is brief, but enough to stir old memories of Padmé, the warmth of her touch, the sound of her voice, the hope they once shared. The weight of their love presses down on him. She's alive, he thinks, but immediately the thought is dismissed. He cannot allow himself to believe that. He cannot allow himself to hope. Instead, he focuses on the bounty at hand. Raltic Vel. The politician is a vile man, wrapped in luxury and deception. He has long exploited the suffering of others to further his own wealth and power. Vengeant hunts him down with a fury he hasn't felt in years. As the politician tries to flee, Vengeant confronts him in a darkened alley, the shadows swallowing both men. Vel sneers at the masked hunter before him, but his bravado fades as Vengeant steps forward, his hand reaching for his blaster. The politician offers a bribe, promising wealth beyond imagining, but it's too late for that. Vengeant's silence is deafening. His only response a swift, lethal shot that silences the man forever. The job is done, but Vengeant is not satisfied. He returns to the ship, his mind elsewhere, weighed down by the unsettling memory of the woman he saw earlier. He wonders if she was a figment of his imagination, or if there was something more to the encounter. He wonders if Padmé could still be alive, hidden away in some corner of the galaxy, a prisoner like so many others. His mind races with questions, but each one only deepens the confusion in his heart. The whispers of the past grow louder, the echoes of his former life impossible to ignore. Vengeant tries to push them down, but he knows deep within himself that he is at a crossroads. The hunt has become more than just a means of survival. It has become a desperate search for something he can never truly reach. Redemption, peace, a chance to fix what he's broken. As the galaxy continues to spiral into darkness, Vengeant knows one thing for certain. He cannot outrun the ghosts of his past forever. And one day, the choices he made, the people he abandoned, will come to find him. Now the Clone Wars are coming to a violent conclusion, and the Republic, though fractured, still clings to life. On the fringes of it all, Vengeant, once Anakin Skywalker, drifts through the galaxy, still a hunted fugitive, though a legend in his own right. His reputation is whispered across worlds, and his name is feared by those who live on the edges of law and morality. Vengeant's methods are swift and merciless, but they have always been guided by a sense of justice. However warped by the darkness that has overtaken him, he is deep in the Outer Rim, a lone figure in a galaxy filled with chaos. The smuggler ship he now commands, a relic of his past, drifts through space like a ghost. He doesn't keep track of the days anymore, or even the years. Each bounty he collects brings a hollow sense of accomplishment, but nothing lasts. The anger, the pain, it never fades. It only grows. Then one day, a transmission comes in. It's a bounty, but not just any bounty. This one is personal. The target is Count Dooku, the Sith Lord who played a pivotal role in the war and the rise of the Empire. The Republic has placed a bounty on his head, offering a reward large enough to buy an entire fleet. But Vengeant's motivations are not driven by the size of the reward. He feels something else stirring within him, a deep simmering anger at the man who helped shape the destruction of everything Anakin once fought for. Dooku had once been a Jedi Knight, a master of the Force. He had been a mentor to Qui-Gon Jinn, who had then passed on the wisdom of the Force to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And yet, Dooku's betrayal of the Jedi and his subsequent descent into darkness mirrored Anakin's own fall. Though Vengeant could not deny the strange connection he felt to the man, this is no longer about money. This is about justice, or something far more primal, vengeance. The hunt leads Vengeant to the isolated world of Sereno, Dooku's home planet. The land is steeped in history and power, a place of luxury, politics, and deceit. Vengeant arrives in the dead of night, his presence unnoticed by the people of the planet. He knows Dooku's fortress-like estate, an ancient castle surrounded by vast fields and deep forests, will be heavily guarded. But that doesn't matter to him. He doesn't fear the challenge. He welcomes it. As he infiltrates the estate, the shadows seem to embrace him. His steps are silent, his movements deliberate. He is no longer the reckless, impulsive Jedi he once was. He has learned control. The rage he carries is now a tool, a weapon to be wielded when necessary. But he is not its slave. He has mastered it, just as he has mastered the use of his blasters, his knives, and his bladed gauntlets. Dooku is aware of the impending danger. He has felt the approach of the hunter, a presence in the Force that is both familiar and alien. The Count is no fool. He has had many encounters with powerful beings throughout his time as a Sith Lord. But Vengeant is different. The man who once was Anakin Skywalker's is a shadow in the Force, hidden beneath layers of rage and sorrow. He is a walking storm. The two meet in the great hall of Dooku's palace. Dooku stands tall, his expression calm, yet amused, as if he has seen this moment 1,000 times before. "Anakin Skywalker," Dooku says, his voice soft, mocking, and knowing. "I always knew you would come for me. You cannot run from your fate." At the mention of his former name, something stirs within Vengeant. The Force flickers in the air, and for a brief moment, he is the young Jedi again, full of hope, full of potential. He is Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, standing face to face with a former mentor, a man who turned his back on everything he once held dear. But that brief moment fades as quickly as it came, replaced by the cold resolve of Vengeant. His lightsaber ignites with a sharp hiss, its crimson blade glowing with deadly intent. "You don't understand," Vengeant says, his voice a mixture of anger and sorrow. "You were one of the architects of this destruction. You helped bring this galaxy to its knees." The duel is brutal and swift. Dooku's elegant fencing style clashes with the raw aggression of Vengeant's strikes. The room echoes with the sound of clashing blades, the air thick with the weight of their shared history. Vengeant's power is overwhelming, his emotions raw, but Dooku is a master of the Force. He taunts Vengeant, trying to unearth the conflicts buried deep within him. "You think you're any different from me?" Dooku sneers. "You who walked away from the Jedi, who embraced the darkness." "The galaxy will fall to darkness, Anakin. You cannot change that. You are the darkness." Vengeant's rage builds, and with one fluid motion, he drives his blade through Dooku's chest. The Sith Lord's eyes widen in shock as his body crumples to the floor, lifeless. The sound of his fall reverberates in the grand hall. For a moment, Vengeant stands over the body, his lightsaber humming in the silence. His breathing is heavy, his heart racing. He has killed Dooku, but what has it achieved? Nothing. The galaxy still teeters on the edge of chaos. His purpose remains unfulfilled. But then, as he stands over the fallen Sith Lord, he feels a presence, an unmistakable signature in the Force. It's Obi-Wan. Vengeant's heart skips a beat. His former mentor's presence is familiar, yet strange. Obi-Wan approaches with caution, his presence tinged with sadness and regret.
"I knew you were lost, Anakin.
Obi-Wan's voice comes, soft, yet filled with sorrow.
But I had hoped. I had hoped I could bring you back."
The words strike Vengeant like a physical blow. For a moment, he is torn. The memories of their time together, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the bond forged through battle, return to him with a force he cannot deny. But it is too late. Too much has happened. Too much blood has been spilled. "I'm not Anakin anymore," Vengeant replies, his voice cold, but his heart is heavy. Anakin Skywalker is dead. There is only Vengeance left. Obi-Wan steps forward, his eyes filled with a sadness that mirrors Vengeant's own grief.
"Anakin, please, come back to us. The Jedi still need you. The galaxy still needs you."
But Vengeance can't do it. The Jedi have betrayed him. They abandoned him when he needed them most. They failed to see the man he had become. And perhaps in a way, they never truly saw him at all. He ignites his lightsaber again, his crimson blade glowing in the darkness. "It's too late, Obi-Wan. The galaxy is beyond saving. All we can do now is survive." Obi-Wan watches him torn.
"Then I will let you go. But know this, Anakin, I will never stop believing in you."
With those words, Obi-Wan retreats into the shadows, leaving Vengeant alone with his thoughts. The moment lingers long after Obi-Wan's departure. Vengeant stands alone, looking at Dooku's lifeless form, his own heart torn between the man he used to be and the hunter he has become. The future remains uncertain, and the choices he makes now will determine the galaxy's fate. Though, at this moment, he isn't sure he even cares anymore. The galaxy is changing. The Clone Wars, once a cataclysmic battle between the Republic and the Separatists, have reached their violent and inevitable conclusion. The Republic, now transformed into the Galactic Empire, falls under the iron grip of Emperor Palpatine, and the galaxy is reshaped in his image. Across every world, new imperial statues rise, and propaganda fills the airwaves. Order, control, and the promise of peace are sold at the cost of liberty and freedom. But in the darkness between the stars, a different story is unfolding, one of vengeance, isolation, and perhaps redemption. Vengeant, the bounty hunter once known as Anakin Skywalker, has become a myth, a shadow in the galaxy that strikes fear into the hearts of criminals, warlords, and those who would oppress the weak. His exploits are whispered in hushed tones, both feared and admired by the oppressed who see him as a symbol of justice. Even as the Empire's dominance spreads across the galaxy believes him dead, or at least lost to the wind, just another casualty of the Clone Wars. The Republic's official records show no trace of him. Padmé Amidala, his beloved, remains unaware of his true fate. His former comrades in the Jedi Order believe him either fallen to the dark side or consumed by the Force itself. His legacy, once marked by greatness, is now a void. But Vengeant lives on, even if he is no longer truly alive in any sense that matters. He is a man torn between worlds, a ghost wandering the stars, weighed down by the consequences of his choices. Months pass, and Vengeant's name continues to spread like wildfire across the Outer Rim and beyond. Every bounty he takes is more than just another paycheck. It is a calculated strike at the heart of the corrupt powers that now dominate the galaxy. The Hutt cartels, criminal syndicates, and even Imperial officials find themselves at the mercy of this relentless hunter who operates in the shadows. He has become a living nightmare for anyone who exploits the powerless. But with each bounty, Vengeant finds that the line between right and wrong grows blurrier. His targets are often those who hold power unjustly, warlords, slavers, corrupt officials. But sometimes they are simply pawns in a game much larger than any individual. As Vengeant's cold exterior hides his ever-growing inner conflict, he struggles to reconcile his desire for revenge. With the haunting memories of his past, his reputation is that of a perfect predator. His skills, honed in the war and under the Jedi's watch, have made him nearly unstoppable. The Empire, as ruthless as it is, finds itself both hunting him and fearing him. Despite his isolation, Vengeant's acts of rebellion become the spark that fuels resistance movements across the galaxy. A legend rises in the shadows, a symbol of hope for those crushed under the heel of the Empire. But even in his solitude, Vengeant can't shake the memories of his former life, the life he left behind with the Jedi and with Padmé. The thought of her keeps him awake at night, her face haunting his dreams. His love for her had never faltered, and yet he believed that staying away from her was the only way to protect her. He could never let her be dragged into the chaos of his fractured soul. He receives whispers from the galaxy's underworld, rumors that Padmé Amidala still lives, though the Empire's grip on her home planet of Naboo has suffocated any trace of rebellion. She is still working tirelessly, trying to heal the wounds the galaxy has suffered, though she knows nothing of Vengeant's fate. The conflict is unbearable. He wants to return to her. He wants to hold her, to explain everything, to seek redemption, but he knows that to do so would be to invite danger into her life. And yet, the fire of their lost love burns hotter with each passing day. Back in the heart of the Empire, Emperor Palpatine consolidates his power. The Jedi Order has been shattered, with only a handful of survivors left in hiding across the galaxy. Darth Vader, now the Emperor's enforcer, continues his brutal campaign to wipe out the remnants of the Jedi and cement the Empire's dominance. But the Emperor's influence is not without its challenges. Palpatine grows increasingly concerned with the rise of the mysterious bounty hunter, Vengeant. His actions threaten to undermine the Empire's control, and he knows that this enigmatic figure, though elusive, has the potential to rally the oppressed into a formidable force. The Emperor has agents in place, seeking to track down and eliminate Vengeant, though the hunter's ability to remain hidden has proven frustrating. The galaxy is shifting. The conflict between the rebellion and the Empire is brewing, though neither side fully understands the depths of the battle that is about to unfold. The seeds of rebellion have been planted by those like Padmé. But there is another force rising in the shadows, one that is neither Jedi nor Sith. It is the symbol of a galaxy that has forgotten its roots, a lone figure who refuses to be a part of the tyranny that now governs everything. One fateful night, Vengeant's ship, silent as a whisper through the stars, arrives at Naboo. His heart pounds in his chest as the familiar shape of the planet fills his viewport. This is the place where he had once been whole, where he had made promises, where he had loved deeply. His mind is a storm of emotions. Part of him wants to leave immediately, to turn away before his heart can make him act. But another part, the part that still remembers the man he used to be, cannot help but return. He sets down in a remote area on the outskirts of the capital, avoiding Imperial patrols and making his way through the forest to the palace where Padmé had once lived. The air is thick with nostalgia and loss as he watches from a distance. It is there that he sees her for the first time in years, standing on a balcony, looking out over the world that has been ravaged by war and tyranny. She has aged, as all people do, but her presence is the same, strong, graceful, and defiant. Vengeant is torn between the overwhelming urge to approach her and the knowledge that he cannot. She cannot be a part of his life anymore, not with the darkness that consumes him. He knows that if he steps into her life again, it will only bring destruction. He cannot drag her into his world of shadows. His eyes linger on her for a moment longer, but then, with a heavy heart, he turns away. His choices have led him down this path, and he knows there is no turning back now. He is not the man he was. He is a ghost, nothing more. In the following weeks, Vengeant takes on another series of bounties, but they no longer bring him the satisfaction they once did. He is consumed with an emptiness, as though something crucial is missing from his existence. The acts of rebellion, the acts of vengeance, none of it feels meaningful anymore. He is a weapon without a cause, a man wandering a galaxy that has moved on without him. The galaxy believes him dead, but he still walks among them. A legend, a myth, a shadow, a symbol of justice that no longer has a place to call home. Vengeance's path continues, but the galaxy moves on. Rebellions are born, wars are fought, and heroes rise. The Empire's grip tightens, and yet, in the silence of the stars, the legend of Vengeant remains, an echo of the man who could have saved the galaxy, but instead became its darkest reflection.
Until next time, remember, each story is but a spark in a galaxy full of endless possibilities. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, and may the Force be with you always.